Andrew Krystal with you. This is Krystal Nation, only on Sirius XM, channel 167. Joining me now is Fox News star Dana Perino. From New York City, she anchors The Daily Briefing. It airs weekdays at 2 p.m. Dana Perino is also my favorite panelist on The Five at 5 p.m. The indefatigable Dana Perino. How are you? Thanks for joining us.
Well, I'm honored to be on the show. I love Canada.
Well, we love you, and we love you, I think, because you are a traditional Republican. Dana Perino, for those who don't know, and shame on you, I slap your wrist, the former press secretary for George W. Bush. You are a traditional Republican. And we saw you get into it with former Fox panelist Eric Bolling when he was trumpeting Trump. You were less so thrilled. Is it more difficult to be a traditional Republican these days, Dana?
Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm pretty comfortable with who I am and where I am. And, you know, it's not necessarily, for me, about comfort as it is about am I being true to myself. You know, it's not that I am so rigid in my thinking that I can never see another point of view or that I can't change my mind. But I am who I am. I was raised in Wyoming and Colorado. With Western sensibilities, I suppose, and I've been able to keep those intact through all of the twists and turns of my life, through the years at the White House, to moving up to New York and working on the shows. And one thing that's really great about working at Fox is that you can spar with your colleagues and still get along in the commercial breaks, which is the only way I could continue working here.
I remember Eric saying, "Don't put words in my mouth. Don't put words in my mouth."
Yeah. And look, there's no doubt that President Trump is not your typical or traditional Republican. And I think what we're talking about today in terms of protectionism and tariffs and things, that really gets to the heart of one of my main oppositions to his stated policy agenda. Now, he has governed as a more traditional Republican. Mm-hmm. He really has. And so I think that's why you see that across at least in the Congress, you have a lot of Republicans supporting the president until it came to this tariff issue, and now you have a lot of them trying to just get him to change his mind, and it looks like that's not going to happen.
Canadians are breathing a sigh of relief, Dana Perino, when word has come out that we will be getting a break for national security, quote-unquote, reasons with regards to these steel tariffs. So that's a great thing for this country.
Well, my hope would be that free trade is free trade, and that if we need to fight it out at the World Trade Organization, we should. There's a lot of misinformation that's circling about on that issue, but certainly when it comes to trade with our best ally and best trading partner,
thank you, Dana,
Canada, then yes, of course we should make sure that we protect that.
Dana Perino, you and Wolf do a split shift. You do your 2 p.m., the daily briefing on Fox News. And by the way, Dana Perino is one of the best reasons to subscribe to Fox News. So if you don't have it, you got to have it, because Dana Perino and Chris Wallace and Brett Baer are some of the best people on air in America. A lot of liberals will say, oh, Fox News, that's just Sean. It's not. There's a lot of great, indefatigable, unbelievably hardworking and great dedicated news people that work at Fox. And you have transitioned from being the president's spokesperson. Wasn't easy during the George W. Bush years. Now it's just plain crazy. But you've transitioned well. Has it been difficult? And tell me about the vagaries of a split shift, because you're on at 5 at the 5 and you do your 2. Well,
it's interesting. Until I left the White House, which, I stayed to the end on January 20th, 2009. And then I started this different career, and I opened my own PR business. I worked actually for President Obama on a volunteer basis. I was appointed to the Broadcasting Board of Governors, which oversees things like Voice of America. And Canada has a counterpart. I can't remember. What is the name of that? It's a really great effort to.
It's a socialist construct called the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
Well, I don't know necessarily about that, but Voice of America has done great things all around the world, especially during the Cold War.
For sure.
And it's so important to these days. So I had all these things going on. And until I came to Fox and working at the 5, I had never once been asked what my personal opinion was about anything, at least on television. Because for my entire career, I spoke on behalf of somebody else. So I was speaking for the president or the Justice Department or even for companies in my private role. And so I really had a pretty interesting transition. I am reluctant and shy to share my opinion. I don't want anyone to ever think that I am judging them and thinking that my views are better than theirs.
But this holds you in good stead, Dana. This works well for you. The training as a spokesperson for George W. Bush is helpful in the news game where you're supposed to be an honest broker despite the transition into entertainment. Actually, it's going to hold you in good stead.
Yeah, and I think that because I had that experience of working in Washington during the Bush administration and then as an observer and an analyst during the Obama administration, I just feel very comfortable in my own skin right now. And I guess at 45, that's a healthy thing to feel. Well,
you're confident and kind. And that comes out in your broadcast. I do think
that one of the hardest things about politics and television, especially cable news and social media, is that so much of it is not kind.
No, you're tough.
One of the
you're
things
tough,
I do every day, Andrew, is pray for a shield.
But you're tough. Like you take the arrows. Like accomplishing what you've done in the White House, it's very competitive. Media is a competitive world. Like you're a tough cookie. So when I say you're kind, I'm not flattering you either. But you are big-hearted.
Yes, and I will say I really ask every day for God to continue to give me that reminder every day that being kind is my natural state. And actually, I think that is for most people. And I think that I have received some criticism from some that I don't fight enough and that I didn't fight enough on behalf of President Bush. But whenever it comes to looking at a press secretary, just remember this. They are a reflection of their boss. And if it's not going well, that usually means that they are in conflict with their boss. And you won't stick around all that long. But people who are chosen for that role really are there to represent them. And I think that the President and Mrs. Bush were quite pleased with how I represented them.
The current press secretary, your thoughts?
I think Sarah, well, what's fun about Sarah Sanders, of course, she's got a tough job.
It's impossible.
I always knew that it was possible that George W. Bush might be watching my briefings, but he was busy, and I don't think he didn't try to watch it every day. But imagine knowing that President Trump, who cares very much about television and presentation and argumentation and being defended at all costs, watching every day and judging you, that would be pretty hard. One thing I really love about Sarah Sanders is that every once in a while you can see her very good sense of humor come through, and it's charming. And she does she represents her boss well. And it's some frustrations for the press as they're trying to get answers to things. But one thing that nobody has had up to now is a president who really, in most cases, serves as his own press secretary.
This recent slip-up with Sarah Huckabee Sanders happened this way, and I'm sure you thought of it. She's speaking with President Trump. He says, we won in court. And she took that not knowing or not really digesting that this was new information, which you're not supposed to give on the stand to the press.
Yeah.
But Trump had said, we won this. This was won in arbitration. She digested that mentally, Dana, and then went out there and said it. That's what happened.
Yeah, and I think that she's just in a tough position being asked these questions about something she doesn't know about, and most people would not necessarily want to know about things like that.
Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm right that that's what happened with her? Trump told her that. We won an arbitration.
She was trying to do her best in order to defend the president and also to try to shut down the line of questioning by saying, well, a court decided and the president won, so let's move on. And it just did feed the story because, what court?
Must freak you out. Dana Perino, you're dealing with George W. Bush as your president. You're the press secretary. And now you've got this other poor woman dealing with some guy who's involved with porn stars. I mean, unbelievable. I want to play this for you. I did the Canadian exclusive interview with Roger Stone. This may be new information for you. I want to roll this clip, and I want to get your reaction. Go ahead.
And frankly, life was much, much too short to have to deal with a schmuck like Corey Lewandowski. If his IQ was 1 point lower, you'd have to water him. He has no political instincts. He is not a strategist. the idea, which I read yesterday, of bringing him into the White House to find the leakers, he couldn't find his ass with both hands. So, and like the last set of plumbers, remember them?
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
He'll end up in jail. He's not a lawyer. He's not a law enforcement officer, and he has no judgment.
Do you think Lewandowski is going to be swept up in this Russian probe?
Well, I do know that he is the one who brought Carter Page into the campaign. I do know he is the one who approved Carter Page's trip to Russia at some point during the campaign.
There we go. Dana, what are your thoughts there?
Well, I never know quite. I don't really watch reality television, but I understand the concept, which is that at the end of every show, you are at the edge of your seat because you can't wait to see what's going to happen on the next episode. And they give you enough tantalizing information that you got to tune in. And I think this is what's happening with all of the personnel drama that they have in the Trump world. You know, Roger Stone is a fascinating character. I'm sure you probably watched the documentary.
Yep. Get me Roger Stone on Netflix.
Get me Roger Stone. And I actually have never met him. I have met Corey Lewandowski. I think one thing I would say is one thing, it might be a little unfair, when Roger Stone says that Corey Lewandowski doesn't have any political instincts, I actually think that if you look at those early days of the primary, when Donald Trump was up against 17 other Republicans, and Corey Lewandowski and Hope Hicks were basically the only two staffers on the campaign. Donald Trump has amazing political instincts. And so I think that Corey Lewandowski does as well. So I think that might be a little unfair. I don't know if he's going to get caught up in the Russia thing. He was just on Capitol Hill today answering more questions from the committee. They said he answered some and refused to answer others, and I guess we'll see that.
But that's news that he's saying that he thinks Corey Lewandowski will go to jail.
Well, I think that remember, everybody's trying to telegraph what they think is going to happen. In the Fire and Fury book, Steve Bannon says that it's not going to be collusion that they get them on. It will be money laundering. Correct,
yeah.
So then everybody starts chasing that. And I worked at the Justice Department for about 9 months after 9/11. I learned a lot. And one thing I know is that we basically, the public knows about 1% of what's going on in that case. So I feel very content to wait until the final decision and not worry about trying to guess what's going to happen.
Dana, will you come back? Will you come on the air with me again? You're amazing.
I'm just so excited because, I do love Canada. In fact, I wore my coat today that I bought in Quebec City.
Oh, beautiful. Dana Perino, you do such a great job. And
thank you, Andrew. I didn't know I had a fan.
The only way to understand the pulse of America is to watch Fox News along with the other channels. You must include Fox News in it to really understand what's going on in America. And a lot of liberals give Fox News a short shrift. They need to actually watch Fox News. A lot of people who complain about Fox don't watch Fox News. Yes, and you're one of the great ones. And they've got some great people at Fox, and I really appreciate your time, Dana Perino.
All right, Andrew. Bye-bye.
Thanks, my dear. Coming back with more here, I'll look at how the glass is falling from the sky. If you've got a condo, you're going to lose your wall. These things are not built to last. They're built to sell. That's ahead right here on Krystal Nation.